All right, for this week's Revved Up Reflections, I'm just going to go over some things on insurance and insurance companies, insurance adjusters, what kind of coverage you might have or need. Basically, just insurance. So, I'll start by saying if you have a bike that you've done a lot of work to, and you have, it's not just a stock bike, just bone stock, say you bought whatever, and you dumped a lot of money into it straight off the bat. So, full coverage, yeah, most people do. Uh, that being said, if you, just for instance, you bought a bike for 20 grand and then you dumped another 10,000, 15, whatever into it, any amount over what you paid for the bike, you want to insure it for full value. You need to call your insurance company and just say, you did a paint job and some pipes and some wheels or whatever. Just say you spent 10 grand over what the price of the bike was. Well, if your bike is a loss or gets damaged somehow, and you don't have that extra 10 grand on for full value, they're not even going to consider it because it's you basically didn't tell them. So when you start adding a lot of stuff to a bike, you need to call your insurance company and tell them, I need it insured for full value, and give them receipts of everything you've done to it. What will happen, your bike gets stolen or total loss claim, whatever, they're only going to give you the book value. So you got a $20,000 bike and depreciation, might be, book value might be 10, 12, 13, 14, whatever it is. That's all they're going to give you for it. So you're on the hook for the rest of the bike plus all your accessories that you put on there. As far as insurance adjusters go, the way we always did it is the dealership does the estimate. And then you have to fight with the adjuster because after a while there, we always did the estimates. And then sometime in early 2000s probably, insurance companies wanted to start doing the estimates. And the adjusters, there's some good ones, but most of them are kind of so-so. They're not really bike guys, so they don't even really know what they're looking at. I went rounds with a bunch of them before, and I can say the worst dealings I've had with insurance adjusters was Progressive. Because everyone I run into, they think that they know everything there is to know about motorcycles because they portray themselves as being great motorcycle people, but never had an appreciation for them. And I'll tell you what, it turned me off so much that I will never buy a Progressive product ever. And this isn't a Progressive rant. It's just a statement of fact. I had one time, and this was probably the last time I dealt with a Progressive guy. I had a guy with a Road King that was a special edition model, whatever it was. And the pinstriping on the tank was a special pinstriping that you can't get paint to paint that pinstriping because it's a special color. And Harley won't sell that color. So the guy had one little chip on right through the pinstripe. Not all the way down to metal, but it popped probably the size, probably about 3/16 piece of pinstripe on. And this isn't tape. This is actually painted pinstripe. And that insurance guy, of course, I put a tank on the tank because I'd already checked. You can't get that paint color. They won't even give you the paint code. So meaning it ain't getting repainted. So put that in the estimate. It was like $900 for a gas tank. This adjuster shows up and at my shop. This is when I had my own business. At my shop, and he's writing his own estimate and wants to compare it to mine. So he's looking at mine and he's like, well, I didn't put a gas tank on there. It doesn't need a gas tank. I'm like, well, you know what? Because the guy that they represented wasn't my customer. They represented their whoever damaged this guy's bike. So this adjuster wanted to take the tank to somebody he knew to see if they could fix it. And that's kind of strange. I guess he didn't trust that it needed a gas tank or trust me that it needed a gas tank or whatever. So I made him sign a release form that he's taking the gas tank, and I said, if anything else happens to that gas tank, it's on you, man. So he takes the gas tank to wherever, a couple of days maybe, and then brings it back and says, go ahead and put a gas tank, go ahead and get a gas tank for it. And I was like, what, you found out that you couldn't be painted? He's like, yeah. Yeah, I told you it couldn't be painted. So anyway, there was a lot of difference between his estimate and mine. Stuff that he didn't want to fix that was supposedly pre-accident, stuff that was already wrong with the bike. Regardless, they went with my estimate and paid for everything that was wrong with the bike. And I've had that problem with them before, specifically that insurance company. Most of the other ones are okay. Most insurance adjusters they know that they're not bike guys, so they defer to whatever you tell them. You work up a relationship with insurance adjusters over time to where eventually they're not even going to come out. If it's an insurance company that you're first starting to deal with, they'll usually send somebody out because they want to make sure they're not getting screwed. But after a while, they'll quit coming, except for Progressive, because they always send somebody out because they want. I had one guy brings his bike in, and it wasn't even there for a day before there was a Progressive adjuster there wanting to know where it was so he could write an estimate. And I told him where the bike was and wheeled it out. And I said, man, I haven't done an estimate for it yet. He's like, man, you don't even need to bother. We're going to do the estimate. I said, oh, no, you're not. I'm going to do an estimate, and then we can compare estimates because you guys aren't that sharp, really. And whatever you do when you do an estimate, I always do it. Been doing it for 35 years. Always write on the bottom of the work order. Does not include hidden damage, meaning cosmetically, you go through everything on the bike. But say it doesn't run, and you start the bike up, and engine's blown or whatever, which can happen. Bike crashes and it's laying on its side, and ain't got no oil to the oil pump or whatever, so it eats the crank or seizes the pistons or whatever. And so does not cover hidden damage. That's an important one. What that means, it does not include hidden damage too. That covers your butt. You get into it and you start taking stuff apart and you realize, because an estimate, basically you're going over the bike. The way I do it, I start on the left side, left front with a yellow legal pad. I start writing stuff down. And I get on my little roll around stool and I go down one side of the bike, back up the other side. Anything that's damaged gets written on there. So it doesn't include insurance estimate is paid for, usually by the insurance company. Customer rarely pays it. We always charge 2 hours labor, even though it takes longer because it doesn't take longer to write everything down. It takes longer to look up every part and put it in a written estimate. And so they're not paying you to take anything apart. You get into it and you start taking stuff apart, and say you pull the gas tank off and the damn wiring harness is fried for whatever reason up under here. Well, you can't see that with everything together. Or engine noise, or oil pan's cracked, or which you could obviously see that if it's leaving oil everywhere. But stuff like that. The brakes are locked up, or who knows. So hidden damage not included. That leaves you a way to do a addendum, do an estimate if you need to. Because an estimate is, after all, just an estimate. Same way if you're quoting the customer repair costs, it's just an estimate. You know, you get in there and you might find something else that's wrong with it. You know, well, that's not on you. That's on the bike. It's on the customer. You can't do that. And some customers, you know, they think that they can get away with stuff. But that's really neither here nor there. So when you're doing an estimate, you know, I had one time. This is when I worked at a dealer. Uh, I'm sure it was insurance fraud. Guy brings a bike in and wants an estimate for crash damage. Didn't say nothing about the bike being stolen or anything like that, just crash damage. And he was going to turn it into his insurance company. So, you know, I go take write the work order and go out there and I'm going over it with the customer and I'm looking at it. You know, this lever's broken, bars are bent, you know, grips torn up, and foot pegs bent or shifters bent, foot pegs bent, scratches on the primary, all down the primary, things like that. Rear turn signal. I mean, it's just look like a low side parking lot crash. But, and this is a big but, on the inner primary and on the cam cover and transmission covers, everything else, there's little dimples all over everything. It looks like somebody took a ball peen hammer and started beating on, I mean, even on the rocker boxes, which are up under the gas tank. You know, really hard to get any crash damage on a rocker box. It's happened on the right side, but never on the left side. So I'm looking at this bike, and I mean, there's even dimples on the damn wheels, front and rear. Somebody was bam, 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 hitting on it. And you know, that's not crash damage. That's somebody intentionally taking a ball peen hammer, trying to get out of bike payments or who knows whatever. So I don't know what they were trying to pull. So I do an estimate for crash damage. Just crash damage, none of the ball peen hammer bull crap, because that ain't crash damage. So insurance agent adjuster comes out from, I don't remember what insurance company it was, comes out and wants to look at the bike and do an estimate and all that. So I'm like, I wheel the bike out and the guy does an estimate of his own. And he gives me a copy of his estimate. I'm looking at it and it's like 3 or 4 times more than mine. I was like, what the hell, man? He's like, well, you didn't have all this stuff on your estimate that was damaged. I was like, are you sure that's from a wreck? Because this guy's claiming he wrecked the bike. And there's no way in hell that he got ball peen hammer dent marks all over the top of the primary, on top of the transmission cover, on the transmission side cover, on the cam cover, from a wreck, or on the wheels. There ain't no way in hell. So they went with that insurance agent's estimate, and you know, came up for all the parts got ordered for the bike and draw the work order out to repair it. And you know, I'm thinking they're going to bring me a primary cover and some levers and handlebars and crap, and they start bringing boxes and boxes and boxes of crap out, and it's like it's got inner primary, outer primary, derby cover, inspection cover, rocker boxes, cam cover, wheels, all kinds of crap on there. I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess whatever. I said that those 2 guys must have gone to high school or related or something. They must have gone to high school together or they're related or something, because ain't no way that all that damage was from a wreck. But they fixed it somehow. That, to me, that's insurance fraud, straight up insurance fraud. And I didn't report it. I probably should have reported it to the insurance board. Guy just wasn't just a fraud. The guy, both of them rubbed me the wrong way. You know, first the guy that owned the bike, he's like in a hurry to get it, and this and that and the other thing. And I don't think they took into consideration that when an insurance company cuts a check, at least here, it has two names on it. It has the name of the customer and the name of the place doing the repairs. So the customer doesn't get the check. The check goes to whoever's working on the bike, and then both the customer and the company or individual doing the repair work both have to sign the check to be able to deposit it. So anyway, that stuff goes on. Insurance fraud, I've seen stuff where, did a flood bike one time where they're saying it's a flood bike, and that's their prerogative. They're kind of funky on flood stuff. So I go out there and I can see a mark on the bottom of the wheel, like up to the rim, like right there, where it's been sitting in water. Or it had like a watermark on it, front and rear, and you could tell. Wasn't no water damage anywhere else on the bike. So I guess according to them, that's automatic totaled bike. So they totaled it. Had one time where a guy had a Sportster, a brand new Sportster bought from us, left the dealership, and I really don't know what happened. They bring the bike back in for an insurance estimate, and that bike was totaled. But they brought it in. I pulled the plugs out of it, and knew there was something wrong with it because the Speedo was full of water. Speedo's all the way up here, and it's chock full of water. So they ponded that thing. But took it out and charged the battery, drained the oil on it, drained the primary, which had a lot of water in it. Blew the engine out, cleaned it out with kerosene, diesel fuel, drained it. Always have these bottle of oils laying around that are like leftovers. You use like half a quart out of a bottle, or 3/4 of a quart, or even 1/4 of a quart, whatever. So you have all these little bottles of oil laying around, and you combine them in every week. You combine them, and you'll have like 3, 4, 5 bottles of oil left over from all them little singles. So poured oil in it, clean everything up, run it for a while, took it out, rode it down the road, and that was the only damage to it was water, but it was totaled. I was like, man, I ought to go to the insurance sale and buy that thing. And I bought a few of them from insurance sales like that, where they're totaled, but there ain't a whole lot of damage to them. Of course, it depends on the kind of bike. Anyway, that's enough of that. I'm just rambling on now. So, full coverage or insure for full value. If you have to get an estimate, go over it with whoever's doing the estimate. If it's an adjuster, one trick they like to do is they send an adjuster out to your house, so he does it there. Well, make sure you're standing out there pointing stuff out to him. So if he's not putting stuff on the estimate that should be on there, you need to tell him. You need to talk to a superior or somebody, because they're not, like I said, they're not always that sharp. They've had them before where front end's tweaked, and you sit on the bike and you look down the front end and you can tell that the forks are sitting like this, which could be as simple as loosening up the clamps, loosening up the front axle, and it springs back into position. Or it could be your tram triple trees are bent, or you got a fork tube that's bent. And a lot of times you can't actually see that until you're sitting on the bike, or you go ride down the road, and you can look down and the bars are sitting like this, and bars are sitting like this, and front wheel's sitting like that. Well, just sitting on a bike, sometimes people can't see that. So the insurance adjuster, they miss that kind of stuff a lot. because, like I said, most of them they're not going to know what they're looking at, or they're not going to care, or whatever. So really, that's about all I got for this week. Hope everybody has a good week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. And I'm doing these, so it's just something for you to think about doing. I'm no expert. Uh, Maybe at one time I was, but not anymore. So just stuff to think about. If you do get in a wreck, God forbid, or something happens to your bike, it can be, you see all kinds of stupid stuff. You see, people that have their bikes parked in parking lots, and somebody hits it and takes off down the road, or doesn't say anything, doesn't leave a note, basically doesn't care. They're just happy they got away. Uh, you're kind of on your own at that point. And what are you going to do? You have to claim it on your insurance if you have insurance. If not, you got to eat it. So just be careful. Accident reports are important. If you could go and look at do a VIN check before you buy a bike to see if it's ever been in an accident, what kind of accident. If it's a salvage bike, like this is a salvage bike. I knew it was a salvage bike when I bought it because I bought it from an insurance salvage auction. So you don't know what you're getting pretty much. Uh, Takes your chances, as they say. But that's all I got, man. You guys have a good week and appreciate you watching. Take care.